Gunshot wounds don't bleed the way they do in movies. They don't gush dramatically, they seep, slow and persistent, like a secret that refuses to stay hidden. Maeve Callard knew this because she was currently pressing a dish towel against a man's shoulder, watching the white cotton turn dark, and thinking that she should have gone home 20 minutes ago. She almost had. She'd clocked out at 11, grabbed her jacket, told the night cook to lock up. She'd been halfway across the parking lot of the Bluebell Grill when she heard it, a sound too heavy for a falling trash can, too wet for a stumble. She'd turned around. She almost hadn't. That single hesitation was what changed everything. The man was crumpled against the back wall of the restaurant, half hidden by the recycling bins. He was wearing a suit that cost more than her car. His tie was loosened. His right hand was pressed to his left shoulder, and the blood was spreading fast beneath his fingers, soaking through fabric that had probably been tailored in a city she'd never visited. Maeve was 29 years old. She was a waitress. She had $214 in her checking account, a 7-year-old son named Otto who slept with a stuffed armadillo, and a mother with early-stage Parkinson's who lived in the spare bedroom of their 2-bedroom apartment. She did not have time for this. She knelt down anyway. "Don't," the man said. His voice was low and rough, like gravel dragged over concrete. "Walk away." "I would," Maeve said, pressing her palm against his shoulder. "But you're bleeding on my parking lot." He looked at her then, really looked, the kind of look that assessed and catalogued and filed. His eyes were dark grey, almost colourless in the bad light. His face was sharp-boned and handsome in the way that dangerous things sometimes were. He was maybe 40, maybe less. Hard to tell under the blood and the pain. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. "I know exactly what I'm doing," she said. "I'm applying pressure, which is more than you're managing on your own. Who shot you? Nobody you want to meet. Can you walk?" A pause. Something moved behind his eyes, something that looked almost like surprise. "If I have to, you have to. My back door is unlocked. Come on." She helped him up. He was heavy, all of it muscle, none of it soft, and she staggered under his weight before finding her footing. He didn't apologize for being heavy. She noticed that. Inside, under the fluorescent hum of the kitchen, she got her first clear look at him and felt the recognition drop through her like a stone into deep water. Victor Ashworth. She knew the name the way everyone who'd lived in this city long enough knew it, not because they'd met him, but because his name had a specific gravity. Victor Ashworth, whose company technically existed in commercial real estate and private logistics, but whose real business moved through the city's underground like a current beneath still water. His face had been on the news twice in the last year. Both times the charges were dropped before they even reached a courtroom. Maeve pressed the dish towel harder against his shoulder. "You know who I am," he said. It wasn't a question. "Unfortunately," she said. "Then you know you should walk out that door right now." "I know," Maeve said. She went to the supply closet and retrieved the first aid kit. Not the standard issue, but the one she'd put together herself after Otto had stitched his hand open on a fence 2 years ago, and the nearest urgent care had a 3-hour wait. "Hold this." She guided his hand to the towel. "Press hard. You're a waitress," he said, watching her lay out gauze and antiseptic with the focus she usually reserved for the Friday night dinner rush. "I'm a person," she said. "That's enough." She worked quickly, the way she did everything, efficiently, without wasted motion, with the particular competence of someone who had learned that hesitation cost more than it saved. The wound was deep but clean. The bullet had gone through. Small mercy. He didn't make a sound while she worked. She noticed that too. "This is going to need more than what I have here," she said when she'd finished bandaging. "You need a hospital. No hospitals." His voice was flat, non-negotiable. "People who say no hospitals are either criminals or idiots. I'm aware of which category I fall into." Maeve sat back on her heels and looked at him. He was pale under his composure, the kind of pale that comes from blood loss and adrenaline wearing thin. His jaw was set. His eyes were clear and focused and completely without fear, which told her that whatever he was afraid of, it wasn't pain. "Who's coming for you?" she asked. Something shifted in his expression. He hadn't expected directness. "Men I used to trust," he said after a moment. "How enough? Can you get somewhere safe?" "My network is compromised. I don't know who's still mine." Maeve stood up. She untied her apron, folded it twice, and set it on the counter with the precise tidiness that her mother had always said was her tell. The thing she did when she was deciding something she already knew she was going to do. "My apartment is 6 blocks from here," she said. "3rd floor, corner unit. Nobody knows you're with me, which means nobody knows where you are. You can use my phone to reach whoever you need to reach, and then you leave." Victor Ashworth stared at her. For a long moment, the only sound was the refrigeration unit and the distant drone of the city. "Why?" he asked. Maeve picked up her jacket. Because 3 years ago my husband made some very bad decisions and ended up owing money to people a lot like you. And when things went wrong, not one person extended him an inch of basic human decency. She looked at him steadily. I'm not him, and I'm not them. So, can you walk? He'd walk. Barely. But he could walk. They took the back streets. She kept her hand loosely on his arm, guiding him through the shortcuts she knew by heart. The alley behind the dry cleaner, the gap in the chain-link fence by the community garden, the loading dock that nobody used after 10. She'd walked these routes 1,000 times. She'd never thought they'd be useful for this. The apartment was dark when she unlocked the door. She'd expected that. Her mother went to bed at 9. What she hadn't expected was Otto. He was sitting on the kitchen floor with his armadillo and his drawing pad, wrapped in his dinosaur blanket, wide awake at 11:30 at night. "Mom," he said, then stopped. He looked at the man in the doorway, too tall for the frame, his suit jacket ruined, his face tight with pain. Otto didn't scream. He didn't run. He tilted his head to one side the way he did when he was thinking carefully, and said, "Are you okay, mister?" "Otto," Maeve said carefully, "why are you up?" "I had the dream again," he said, which she understood. The recurring one about his dad, which she never pushed him on. "Who is he?" "A man who got hurt. He needs somewhere to rest." Otto stood up, still holding the armadillo. He walked right up to Victor Ashworth, the man who had sat in rooms with federal investigators and not flinched, and looked up at him with the clear, unguarded assessment that only 7-year-olds and very old dogs could manage. "Does it hurt a lot?" Otto asked. Victor looked down at him. Something in his face changed, not dramatically, not in a way that a stranger would notice. But Maeve noticed. "Yes," he said. "My mum fixed my hand when I cut it bad," Otto said. "She's good at fixing." He held out the armadillo. "You can borrow Sergeant." "I'm all right," Victor said, his voice rougher than before. "He helps with hurting," Otto said simply, and set the armadillo on the couch armrest next to where Victor was being steered. "It's okay if you don't want to hold him. He'll just be there." Maeve got Victor settled on the couch with a pillow and spare blankets, checked his bandages, made him drink 2 full glasses of water. Her mother slept through all of it, which was both a relief and a small grief. "You need to sleep," she told Victor. "I'll check the dressing in 4 hours." "I don't sleep easily," he said. "Tonight you will." She turned off the lamp. "The guest rule in this house is that whatever you are outside that door, you're just a person in here, that's all." She went to bed. She didn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, she heard Otto pad down the hallway. She tensed, listening. She heard his small voice say something she couldn't make out, and then, very quietly, Victor's voice in response. Not a full sentence, just a few words. Then silence. Then Otto's feet padding back to his room. In the morning, she found the armadillo tucked against Victor's arm. She said nothing about it. Victor was awake before she was, sitting upright on the couch with his jacket folded next to him, looking at nothing. The pallor was still there, but steadier. The kind of steadiness that came from discipline rather than recovery. "My phone," he said when he saw her. "I need to reach my second, your second, my operations manager. There's one man in my organization I know for certain didn't betray me." He said it without inflection, but she heard what lived underneath it, the specific weight of knowing that almost everyone else had. She handed him the landline. She took Otto to brush his teeth and tried not to listen to the conversation. By the time she'd come back out, Victor had made 2 calls and said less than 40 words total, in a voice so low and flat she couldn't have repeated a single sentence. But when he set the phone down, something in his posture had shifted. Not relaxed, she suspected he didn't do relaxed, but recalibrated, like a compass that had found north again. "I need 3 days," he said. "Maybe 4. My people need time to move into position." "This isn't a safe house," Maeve said. "I know what it is." He looked at her directly. "I'll compensate you. Whatever number you name." "I'm not naming a number, Maeve. That's not how this works." She sat down across from him. "You want to stay. You follow my rules. You don't lie to me. You don't bring anything dangerous into this apartment. You don't tell my son anything about what you do. And when this is over, you go and we don't contact each other again." He was quiet for a long moment. "Those are reasonable terms," he said finally. "I know." Otto appeared in the hallway doorway in his school shirt and one sock. "Are you staying?" he asked Victor with the casual directness of someone who had not yet learned that some questions were impolite. Victor glanced at Maeve. She gave nothing away. "For a few days," Victor said. Otto nodded as if this were entirely unremarkable. "You can have the good cereal," he said. "Not the healthy kind, the one with the stars." The 3 days that followed were strange and strangely quiet. Victor moved carefully through the small space, keeping mostly to the couch, speaking on the phone in low, measured tones that conveyed information and direction without ever raising his voice. He ate what Maeve gave him without complaint, which surprised her. She'd expected demands. He was a man who clearly lived at a level of luxury where things arrived before they were asked for. But he didn't ask for anything. Her mother figured it out on the second day. Elaine Callard was 63 and had Parkinson's and was the sharpest woman Maeve had ever known. She came into the kitchen to find Victor sitting at the table with the newspaper and a coffee, and she looked at him for exactly 3 seconds. "You're in trouble," she said. "Yes," Victor said. "My daughter pulled you out of it." "She did." Elaine considered this. "She's done that before," she said. "Pulled things out of trouble. Dogs. Mostly. Once a raccoon." She poured herself a coffee. "Are you going to be worth the same amount of grief?" Something that wasn't quite a smile crossed Victor's face. "I'm trying," he said. Elaine sat down across from him and they read the newspaper together in silence for 20 minutes, which was more peace than Maeve had seen in that kitchen in a long time. It was Otto, though, who undid him. Not loudly, nothing about Otto was loud. It happened on the third afternoon, when Maeve was at the diner covering a lunch shift she couldn't afford to miss. Her mother was resting. Otto was doing homework at the coffee table. Victor was watching him in the way he watched everything. Quietly, from a still point, taking in information. "What are you drawing?" Victor asked. Otto looked up. "A map," he said, "of the good guys and the bad guys." "What's the difference?" Otto thought about this. "The good guys are scared sometimes too," he said finally. "They just still do the right thing." He pushed the drawing over. "Where would you be?" Victor looked at the paper for a long time. It was a crayon map, a city rendered in the imagination of a 7-year-old, with careful labels in uneven letters. On one side, small figures with stars, on the other, figures with clouds over their heads. "I don't know yet," Victor said. Otto nodded, as if this were a correct and honest answer. "That's okay," he said. "You can be in the middle until you figure it out." He drew a small figure in careful pencil, not crayon, not permanent, between the two sides and labeled it. The label said man. Victor looked at that small pencil figure for a long time. When Maeve came home, she found them at the kitchen table, the map put aside, Otto doing multiplication, and Victor doing something on the legal pad she kept by the phone. She didn't ask, she made dinner. The 4 of them ate together. Victor, Maeve, Otto, Elaine, and something about the scene felt so ordinary that it pressed on her chest from the inside. She didn't let herself think about what that meant. On the 4th night, Maeve couldn't sleep again. She went to the kitchen for water and found Victor standing at the window looking out at the city. He was moving better. The wound was closing cleanly. He'd be able to walk without her support by tomorrow. "You're leaving soon," she said. It wasn't a question. "Tomorrow night," he said. "My people are ready. I've identified who moved against me," he paused. "It will be handled." She didn't ask what that meant, she already knew. "And then what?" she asked. He turned from the window. The city light fell across the planes of his face, and she could see, clearly, the thing she'd been careful not to look at directly for 4 days. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. Like someone who had found something they hadn't known they were missing and didn't yet know what to do with it. "I'll ensure your safety," he said. "I'll make certain no association with me follows you." "That's not what I asked Maeve." His voice was careful, controlled, the voice he used for things that mattered. "You don't have to answer," she said. "I'm not asking for one. I'm just—" She stopped, looked at her water glass. "I'm just saying that there's a difference between erasing a debt and disappearing from someone's life. And only one of them is your choice." The silence that followed was the kind that had weight to it. "I've spent 20 years making this city afraid of me," Victor said quietly. "I'm very good at it. I'm not good at—" He stopped. "At what?" "At being in the middle," he said. She looked at him. He looked back. Something shifted between them, not dramatic, not the stuff of the movies she watched with Otto on Sunday nights. Just a quiet, irreversible acknowledgement. "Go do what you have to do," Maeve said. "Come back when it's done. We'll see." Victor nodded. That was all. The next morning, she woke to find a note on the kitchen table in precise, angular handwriting. Not money, not a number to call. Just 3 words. "I remember everything." She folded it and put it in the kitchen drawer, under the takeout menus and the spare keys. 3 weeks passed. The city moved on the way cities do, indifferently, continuously, swallowing its own noise. Maeve worked doubles, helped Otto with his spelling, managed her mother's medication schedule, and told herself she was not watching the door. She was absolutely watching the door. She'd seen the news. Not about Victor specifically. His name never appeared, but she could read the negative space. A major restructuring in the city's private logistics sector. Several high-profile business figures who'd been very visible suddenly becoming very quiet. The kind of silence that meant something had been settled, and not at a negotiating table. She was wiping down the counter at the end of her shift when the bell above the diner door rang. She didn't look up immediately. She finished the wipe down. She set the rag down. She breathed. Then she looked up. Victor Ashwer stood just inside the door. He wasn't wearing a suit. Dark jacket, dark trousers, no tie. He looked slightly less like a weapon and slightly more like a person. The cane he'd apparently been using for the first week was gone. His stride, when he moved toward her, was even. The truckers at the counter went quiet. The short-order cook turned from the grill. Victor walked to the counter and sat down on the stool directly in front of her. He looked at her with those grey, assessing eyes. He did not say hello. He did not do preamble. "The building on Crane Street," he said. "The one with the blue awnings, 3 blocks from Otto's school. It's been empty for 8 months. I own it. The ground floor has good light and a functional kitchen." Maeve crossed her arms. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your mother should have a proper space for the ceramics class she mentioned to me 3 times in 4 days. And because Otto's school has a 6-month waiting list for the after-school art program, which I looked into." She stared at him. "You looked into Otto's after-school program. I look into things that matter to me," Victor said, without any particular emphasis, as though this were simply a fact being stated. "And this is what you came back to say," she said. "That you bought a building?" "I came back," he said, "because a woman I respect told me there was a difference between erasing a debt and disappearing from someone's life, and I spent 3 weeks thinking about that and couldn't disagree." Maeve was quiet for a moment. The diner's refrigeration unit hummed. Someone at the end of the counter asked for a coffee refill, and she held up one finger without looking. "You're still going to be who you are," she said. "Yes, that doesn't stop being complicated because you have feelings about it. I know, I have a 7-year-old and a mother with a progressive neurological condition. My life is not simple. I'm aware, and you're still here." Victor looked at her steadily. "I'm still here," he said. The word she'd been trained, by years and experience and disappointment, to be careful with, the word that meant okay, let's try, was right there, right at the front of her throat. She poured him a coffee. She slid it across the counter. "Otto gets out of school at 3, she said, "and he's going to lose his mind when he sees you." Something unlocked in Victor's expression. Not a smile, not quite, but the thing that lives just underneath a smile when it's real. "I'll be here," he said. He was. When Otto came through the diner door at 3:04, dragging his backpack and wearing one of his shoes on the wrong foot, he stopped dead at the sight of the man at the counter. His face went through surprise and disbelief, and then a joy so uncomplicated it was almost painful to witness. "You came back," he said, and launched himself into Victor's arms with the total fearlessness of someone who has never been told that some people don't deserve that. Victor caught him. His jaw tightened for a second, the way men's jaws tighten when they're holding something they weren't prepared to value. "I told you he would," Maeve said from behind the counter. Otto leaned back and looked at him with great seriousness. "Did you fight the dragons?" "Everyone," Victor said. "Did you win?" A pause. "Yes." Otto nodded, satisfied. Then he looked at his mother. "Can he come to dinner?" Maeve looked at Victor over Otto's head. Victor looked back at her, and in his eyes was something she recognized from the kitchen drawer. The weight of 3 words written in careful, angular handwriting kept underneath the ordinary things for the moment when they were needed. "He can come to dinner," Maeve said, and in the window of the Bluebell Grill, the neon light buzzed on, not flickering now. Steady and warm against the dark, the kind of light that meant someone was still open, still in business, still willing to welcome whatever came through the door. The city moved around them as cities do, but inside, for the first time in a very long time, it was quiet in the good way, the way that meant something had been built, not just survived. If you loved this story of danger, second chances, and a little boy who gives armadillos to strangers, please hit that like button. It helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. And I want to hear from you in the comments. If you were Maeve, would you have let him in that back door, or would you have kept walking? I read every single one. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.